I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today we're talking about teens on Success Street. Figuratively speaking, with programs like Together for Youth, Success Street is providing school-based health services, offering support and solutions for real-world problems many teens face alone. We're joined by Jean and Joni to tell us about Success Street and how it's changing the lives of young Iowans. Welcome to the show, Joni. Starting with you, tell us a little bit about the organization and why you're here today.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Joni Spencer, and I'm actually the manager of Together for Youth and Success Street. So we're going to talk about both programs today. Together for Youth has been around for 30 years, Success Street 25 respectively, and it has been an incredible opportunity to be able to manage these programs over the last 3 decades. So what I would like to say about Together for Youth is that it's not just one organization or one entity. We're a community collaboration. So we collaborate with teachers, schools, faith-based organizations, youth-serving agencies, administrators, guidance counselors, to provide adolescent pregnancy prevention services in the Cedar Valley. So, over the past 30 years, we've seen a significant decline in teen births, and we really want to thank the community for supporting our work, both with our mission and then also financially in funding our programs, or we would not be able to see those results. We do have Jean here today with us, Jean Gallmeyer, and she is one of our health educators, and she's played an integral role in lowering our teen births, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Success Street.
Thanks, Joni. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I'm one of the adolescent sexual health educators in the area, which means I have the honor of speaking with students in classrooms about sex and sexual health in a healthy way. So much exploitation out there in the world, as you may or may not know. And to know that there are adults in the world that are willing to have meaningful conversations and give them the facts and the truths about their bodies and about how to take care of it. It's really an honor, and it's been fun. I've been doing this work for over 20 years and happy to be a part of the Cedar Valley.
Can you give us some idea of what the numbers were when you started and where they are today? Because you guys have been really successful.
Yeah. That one?
Sure. So gosh, not to date me or anything, but 30 some years ago, our community was fortunate enough to receive some adolescent pregnancy prevention funding. And we were able to do teen parent support programming with that funding. And it was funding to help prevent subsequent pregnancies back in the late 80s, early 90s. And we were able to do a teen parent support group. Years later, our legislators funded initial pregnancy prevention, and we developed the Together for Youth programming. And we are providing an array of programs that go into the schools, that work with the faith communities, work with parents, work with community partners, to make sure that everybody is aware of how, when we can help a young person prevent a pregnancy or postpone a pregnancy until they're in their 20s, how they can reach their goals, they can graduate, they can make sure that they're doing what they had planned on doing. So what we do is we provide these services, and over the last 30 years, I'm just going to throw out some numbers here. So if we could imagine ourselves being back in 1995, I believe that we had around 265 teen births that year. So
this is in Black Hawk County, and
this is in Black Hawk County. Yes, I'll use Black Hawk County for example. Thank you for that clarification. So we had approximately 265 teens that delivered a child, and we know that teen pregnancy not only affects the young mother, but also there's a young father involved in both families. Teen pregnancy was very visible in Black Hawk County in the mid-90s. If you go shopping at Walmart or just walking down the high school hallways, it was very, very visible. And a couple of our high schools even had childcares available. Now, over the couple decades here that we have been providing all these services in our classrooms and all these agencies with the community support, the last few years we've trickled around, and I can see that Jean is holding up the data there. You might not be able to see the numbers, but Now it's down to about 68, 74. We've had a slight little uptick to 83 this past year. So if we could have 200 less teens that are delivering a child in our community, we know that they're reaching their goals. We have healthier outcomes. Sometimes when you are a teen parent, your lifetime earnings aren't as much, and it can be difficult. And I say that when also knowing that we can have 15 or 16-year-olds doing an incredible job parenting also. But if we can help young people envision their goals and help them postpone a pregnancy during their teen years, that's really what our goal is. And we do that with the health education that we provide in the schools and the access that they have into Success Street.
I'm gonna ask a really quick question before you go to break. So we've had about a 200 a year reduction. And is it safe to say that these were not planned pregnancies?
The majority of teen births are unintended. Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back and continue our conversation with Jean and Joni. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzz and overshared again?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
that's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're here with Jean and Joni from Success Street talking about a Together for Youth program and how many young Iowans need a network of care, and I call it compassionate care, to support them through some technically tough times. You know, being pregnant as a teen can't be easy. And Jean, most of us don't know what it's like, especially guys, for a teen to be pregnant. How from their point of view, through the eyes of a teen and a child, what are these times like?
You know, I'm so glad you asked it and mentioned the fathers of these babies, because often the visible teen parent is the pregnant one, right?
Mhm.
The female, the one who's carrying that pregnancy, and everybody's finding out that she's pregnant. So many of the young boys could walk around the school and no one would know that they were involved in a pregnancy. And it is, for that reason, much harder on the female partner in that case than for the men, for the boys. But as far as how they get there even, and what's maybe going through their hearts and minds when they are in a relationship and a pregnancy unintended occurs, a lot of times it's terrible to say, but it's peer pressure. Kids, even back in the day when I was a teenager, and that's a while ago, there's pressure from the environment that a young person should be sexually active or shouldn't be. And so if they are and they shouldn't be, that's awful for that person. And if they feel like they should be because maybe all of their peers are and they're not, again, that's pressure, and it's difficult for the young people. So part of what we're teaching in the classroom is that it's not okay to pressure someone into sex, ever. Not when you're 12, not when you're 15, not when you're 25 or 45. Everybody has that right to their own space in their own bodies. And often when that is said in a classroom, you get silence because kids maybe haven't heard that.
Mhm.
I'm a parent. Did I remember to say all important things to my children? Of course not. But I'm a sexual health educator, so maybe those were some things that I hopefully helped my kids understand. But there's so much in life and everybody is so busy and we all have different priorities and life keeps us busy. So part of what we feel like we can do is ease some of that burden for parents by not teaching our personal values about sex or sexuality, but teaching young people about their own ability to draw boundaries and to then stay safer from lots of things. Yes.
Well, a question I have for you is this, I mean, 200 less unintended births is huge, huge for families, health, mental health, and everything else. Is it attributable to safer sex or less sex? One obvious question.
Right. And, we have toyed with that question, haven't we, Joni? And our entire program, we've discussed it at many meetings and we've kind of come to a few conclusions. Do we know for sure? No, we are not researchers, but there is research on this sort of topic. And we also have our experiences here in Black Hawk and the surrounding counties. Part of what we believe is happening is that contraceptive methods have become more effective. Some contraceptive methods that are newer are so much more effective than before, and sometimes more accessible, sometimes not. In the rural areas, getting to a clinic to get contraception is difficult, if not impossible. But in Black Hawk County, there have been a number of clinics and availability of contraception. But what we also see is a rise in STI. So that gave us another clue of information that—
And STIs would be sexually transmitted infections?
Yes. So if STIs, as sexually transmitted infections, are rising at the same time that teen births are going down, that also caused our coalition to kind of say, what's going on? And what we think we know then is that contraception is maybe more often used and that the condom is not the choice that young people might be making. Because if they made the choice of using the condom for their method of contraception, there would be lowered STIs as well as lowered teen births.
What about the idea, especially nowadays, about empowering women to say no and giving them a voice in this act, as opposed to being a victim of this act? I mean, I grew up a long time ago too. I have gray hair, and we're evolving into a culture that's a little bit more understanding and compassionate about sex and actually about women's rights. Let's face it. I mean, we've come out of the dark ages 50 to 75 years ago, and we're trying to move into a future that's a little bit healthier. Is this having an impact on the young girls and the teens you're seeing in the schools?
Well, we do want and encourage women, young women as well, to be and feel empowered to make their own choices. Absolutely. And what we don't want to also ignore is the natural development of males and females in their sexual lives. So to assume that all females are the gatekeepers, in other words, to assume that girls should say no, and that boys, will be what boys will be, which has kind of been the culture. What we really want to promote is that both men and women have the right to their own space and their own yeses or nos to things they do or do not want to engage in. And that if they're educated about what their bodies can experience, negative and positive, they might make better choices for themselves, including choosing no, including choosing contraception when yes is what they want to express, and also to protect their bodies from those sexually transmitted infections.
Well, that does sound very compassionate. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to ask you to come back and talk about some of the successes you've been a part of and the reasons we should have great hope for these children and teens as building families or protecting themselves from an unwanted family. See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? I'm high. Oh.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. Our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're talking with Joni and Jean, who together are part of a network of support in Black Hawk, Bremer, Buchanan, and Butler counties that helps teens deal with their sexual health and family issues. You know, Joni, tell us a little bit more about Success Street.
Well, Success Street are school-based health services available to teens and their young families in the Cedar Valley area. And we have lots of community providers that serve and provide services under an umbrella. And some of those services, if you don't care, I'm going to talk a little bit about them. We have healthcare services available through People's Clinic. So if a young person would need a vaccination, a school physical, if someone would need a pregnancy test, an STD test, vaping education, tobacco cessation, those kinds of opportunities exist under Success Street. Our most utilized service under Success Street is our mental health services. And gosh, I have a couple of numbers here. Last year, we had 470 new referrals, and our mental health providers saw 537 students, providing over 5,500 sessions of mental health therapy in our schools. Several years ago, we had 4 therapists. Now we have 14. Our community has really supported the need for mental health counseling. So those are just some of the services that we have available at 2 high schools, East and West, and then also a middle school, Carver. All these services are available at the schools. They can be accessed. They might not look the same. We actually have sites at those 3 sites, but we have those services available within the other schools.
This seems very unique. I don't see this in a lot of schools throughout the state. And that's a lot of mental health issues. Are you able to get feedback to sort of gauge what the triggers are for mental health? I mean, is it grades, is it violence, has it been COVID? What are some of the trends that you've been seeing?
Well, COVID has affected all of us, and especially the teen population. And my office happens to be right by the front desk. And, you know, even before COVID, we never know what has happened to a young person before they even walk in our door. You know, they may not have eaten the night before. They might be sofa surfing and sleeping on someone else's sofa just to get a good night's sleep. We have abuse situations, but COVID really did affect all of us. And the things that I hear and the things that I'm hearing from the therapist is just quite a bit of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and relationship, family issues, social anxiety. Those are the requests that we're having come in. Yeah.
Is substance use disorder a part of this picture? Because we recently did a show where we heard some statistics about the higher incidence of marijuana toxicology with suicides in teens, and marijuana is becoming a drug of choice when they're in treatment. Are we also seeing substance use disorder issues grow along with mental health ones?
Vaping is a huge concern in our schools, and we work closely with Pathways Behavioral Health, and we work with their educators. So our administrators have a place to refer young people that are caught vaping in schools or using tobacco or illegal substances. So we utilize Pathways. They're a great partner. And if I failed to mention that earlier, they are a great partner.
We know them in the community, do a great
That's
job.
for sure.
Now, Jean, when you're working with in the education, with people and with students, how hard is it to get this dialogue established about things like mental health or even sexuality? I mean, it seems to me that parents always have a tough time talking to their kids Is it easier for you because you're at the school and you're not a parent, or is it just as hard?
I think over the years, I have gotten much more at ease talking with students about a sensitive topic such as sexual health. But I will still say, as a mother of 4 children myself and grandchildren now, everybody's different.
Mhm.
I speak to one of my young people in my family easily, and they can listen easily. And then another child or another young adult in my family is literally, one of my sons said to me, "Mom, I don't want to hear this from you." Get that. So because I get that, I feel like my job as a mom and a grandmother is to then try to make sure that that young person has a place, a person
Mhm.
that I trust or maybe shares my values, so that they have a place to go and a person to confide with or in, because sexuality is a big deal. And there's a lot of information bombarding these young people, good or bad, and a lot of it's not good. So I think it's so important they have a person they can trust, and a trusted adult.
Yeah, when we look at kids too, I mean, there also there's food insecurity, like you said, there's couch surfing. This is a diverse culture here in the Cedar Valley, and a wide range of economic strata. Are there more issues with like teen pregnancy and stuff with kids that face more challenges like food insecurity and housing insecurity, or is it something that's across the board? It doesn't, it's like they say the opioid addiction doesn't discriminate, rich, poor, white, black, it doesn't matter. But what's it like when it comes to teen pregnancy?
I would agree that it's very similar to what you just said. It's a non-discriminatory effect in our lives. Some kids are from the most elite families or educated families, and they're still suffering some of these negative outcomes in their child's sexual health. And the same is true for, folks that are struggling in lots of other ways with poverty or food insecurity. It's very similar. I really look forward to getting to continue my job doing this work. So thanks for having us, Peter.
Well, we got some more time to spend with you after a
Good.
short break. We'll ask Joni and Jean to share some final comments, insights, and inspirations. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected. Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we're talking about Success Street, that with programs like Together for Youth provides school-based health services offering support and solutions for real-world problems many teens face. Let's see what insights, advice, and inspiration Joni and Jean have to share. Jean, let's start with you and tell us about this great month you're celebrating.
Yeah, October is National Let's Talk Month, which really is a month that should be celebrated all year, where we encourage parents and children to have conversations that are the tough conversations. And for a lot of folks, that does mean talking somehow, some way about sex or sexual health, age appropriately, of course. So the talks can start from as little as, when we're changing diapers and that bodies are safe and okay, and all the way up into, upper high school or early college level, where if sex is happening, contraception should be used unless they're wanting a pregnancy, and that they can avoid STDs or STIs by practicing safer kinds of sex if that's what they choose to do. And my point of inspiration would just be, man, if it's hard to talk with our kids, imagine how hard it is for the kids to talk to us. So both parents and kids, try to just loosen up and let those conversations happen. And if you need some help, Joni might have some ideas for where you can go for those conversation starters.
They are difficult conversations, or they can be difficult conversations, but we want to be a resource for parents also. We have all these services available to teens in our schools and in our communities, but parents that are having a hard time bringing up the topic and continuing those conversations, we have folks like Jean and myself, we have an incredible team that want to take those phone calls, and we can send out information, or we could set up a Zoom call. We just want to be there for the parents too. These are important conversations, and we want teens to trust and go to their parents. We want parents to be askable adults.
So now, if you were to go back and look at when you were a kid and compare it to what's available for kids today, has it come a long way?
Oh gosh, that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'll spare you the stories, but I think my passion, and along with several others that I work alongside of, is our experiences growing up have shaped what we want to do as professionals and improve access to education, correct information. We want to provide evidence-based programming in our schools. We want to be there for parents and kids. So I think that plays a very important part of why I do what I do. How about you, Jean?
Oh, absolutely. And, the changing world that we live in, with technology and access to information, like I said earlier, good and bad. So often our young people are accessing what many would call bad information or incorrect information, or worse, pornographic information. And so there's a lot for us to kind of balance, help our kids navigate through.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. And thank you all for watching today. Check out our website at healthyiowa.org, and keep your eye on MediaCom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. On MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.